Hey guys, how's it going? Good morning. Good afternoon. It's Friday again, March 31st. Good morning. Oof. Good morning, Thinker. Good morning, Ulaw. How's the weather today? I have no idea. It's dark here. Although where you guys live, I'm pretty sure the sun's up. Maybe, yeah. Especially this time of year. Hey, good afternoon, Finish. Another person on the other side of the world. It's fantastic. Tap green. Sorry, a little bit late to the stream this morning. It was kind of hard to get up. I have to go to bed a little bit earlier tonight. Okay, so yesterday we worked on the chest of the tiger. And still looking pretty good, even after today, in my opinion. In the morning it was 18 Celsius, now near 0, and sun is shining. Oh. Negative 18 Celsius. So pretty cold, but now it's at least 32, so Fahrenheit. Okay, I think everything looks pretty good on the stream so far. Trying some different things here today. Oh, lots of snow. That's cool. It's starting to warm up here, all the way in Seattle. Okay. I have to get my mind in order of what I'm going to be doing today. Oh, okay. I remember. So, one of the things that I wanted to do a little bit differently today, besides, actually what I'm doing with the stream, is I want to bring in some more refined linseed oil as a medium. This is Gamblin refined linseed oil. And if you have tops, this is like a top to like a dairy-free yogurt kind of thing that we have. It's really good. If you have these, keep them, because a lot of times you can't recycle them, and they're really good for just putting out a little bit of medium every day. You can keep them for about a week or something like that, and there's no need to purchase any special artistic like medium holder or anything like that, or oil holder. And you can use something for a little bit longer rather than just throwing it away. So I'm going to be using a little bit more refined linseed oil in my mixtures. And I'm putting it in one of these things because it's very liquid. It moves around. I can't put it on my vertical palette. I will still have out the solvent-free gel. And the reason why I like... I could use the Galkid Light as well. That wouldn't be a problem. But the reason why I like using refined linseed oil is because that's what's used most of the time in the paint already. And really the only reason why I want to use it right now is because I want a little bit more transparency in my mixtures. And I'm trying out new stuff with the stream. So I actually got this really cool stream deck where I could switch profiles pretty easily. So we're moving down the body of the tiger, so I'm going to put the camera right here. I may actually do some on the back of the tiger. I'm not sure. But yeah. Okay, let's get to it. The first thing I want to do is take some of that medium or the refined linseed oil, And I'm going to oil out just one of the legs. I'm not going to do both. I'm going to focus on one. And I'm pretty sure that this refined linseed oil is starting to thicken up as well, because it's getting to the end of the jar. And so I really need to use it up. That's probably why I've been feeling a need for more transparency in my mixtures. Usually when I oil out like this, the refined linseed oil really becomes part of that mixture for oil for glazes. Oh my gosh, my brain is so slow this morning. I'm still waking up. Okay. $27 there. Wow. Why are you switching to linseed oil for the other medium? Well, the main reason is I want more transparency. And I was adding a lot more of the Gamblin gel medium than I wanted to in these mixtures to get a bunch of transparency, and I was adding just too much of that. So what I'm going to try is I'm going to start dipping into some of this refined linseed oil. And hopefully that will help. We'll see how it goes. A bit more fluid mixture, that's what I want. And like I said, you could use the Galkid Light, it's the same thing, just about. Gonna mix up my darkest dark first, like almost always. You know what I was saying before, when I oil out, I'll put some, like, there's some oil on the canvas here with this whole leg, and there'll be a little bit left in there, and that will mix into your paint. That will help with the glazing layer as well. It'll make it a bit more transparent. And as I poured out this refined linseed oil, which is about at the end of it, I mean, there's only just a tiny bit left in this jar, I noticed that it's a lot thicker than it should be. So most of the time when I work, what I'll see is when I'm doing glazes, that it's a lot thinner than what I have right now. And I think it's more due to the refined linseed oil being almost dried up than maybe anything else. But we'll see. I'm going to make up a very a grayish orange color. The one thing that I added to the stream was the ability to switch through all of these screens. And if you look at the opener that I have right here, what you're going to see is on the right hand side is the picture of the painting that I'm working on from yesterday. So that's how far I got onto it. And depending on what size screen you're actually viewing this on, it could be super small and you can't really tell like the progress with it. You can also see on my website, chrisbeaven.com, which I should probably put on this screen at some point. So you can also see there. And the first thing I noticed when I was making this screen was that and I'm not sure if it's completely the actual painting or the photograph of the painting, because a lot of times when you take a photograph, sometimes the colors are off a little bit. So I'll have to get my color checker out here, take a photo of that, and then do some color balancing to make sure that the painting's right on for color next time I take a picture today. But it looks really orange compared to the reference, right? It's just super orangey in color. So that's one thing that I really want to kind of fix today, or at least work towards, is bringing down the saturation of those oranges a bit, make it a bit more like the reference. Honestly, I think it's more, when I'm getting down into these legs, it's a gray that has gone closer to a warmer color. So I'm mixing up basically a gray here, and then put some burnt umber in it. I'm going to stay away from the transparent earth orange. I think that's too intense. Which is really interesting because if you look at it on the color wheel, on our color wheel that we've made, from my color wheel video, you'll see that that is close to the center of the color wheel, which is the most desaturated part of the color wheel as well. Add a little bit more yellow to it. Yeah, let me know if you want me to get closer to the canvas. At all. If you can see everything well. That value is very different. Much too bright. And you can kind of see what I'm talking about as far as transparency. I mean, these colors that I've put down here, well, maybe I didn't add enough medium into them here, or maybe any at all. Okay, that has a lot of medium in it. I'm going to brighten it up so that I can illustrate this well. Yeah, for example, when I look at this stroke that I put down here, you can see, well, hopefully you can see that it's very opaque. I really need to zoom in, don't I? I have another camera coming that will make this a lot easier for you. So for me, so I can just actually, or a new lens, so I can zoom in there. But this little stripe that I have here is very opaque, and I have not only a little bit of the medium that's on the canvas, but I also have the medium, that I've been using on my palette. And I think both of them could be drying up a bit, getting a little bit too thick. I don't want it that opaque. Honestly, when I put a stroke down, I want it to look something like that. And I'm running into one of the issues that I've talked about several times that this is kind of illustrating. If I take this color off, and you can see, especially up here where I put this value up here is too light compared to what was behind it. So too light than what was behind it. It looks like it's got kind of a haze over it. So that's what happens when you use what they call a scumble rather than a glaze. A scumble is when there's too much white, too much lighter color over the darker color that you're using. And they call it a scumble for some reason, but it's one thing that you can do for atmospheric perspective, for clouds, for a mist, you know, that kind of thing is helpful within that. But if you're trying to get, you know, a pure color within your glaze, that's why I keep saying it's better to go lighter to darker when you're glazing. Like your initial painting, if it's a bit lighter than what it should be, and then glaze it down darker, it always works out better. But the vice versa is not true. If you made the painting too dark, it's going to look pretty hazy when you lighten it up with a glaze. Hopefully that makes sense. Because, for example, if I took a transparent earth orange, so, you know, obviously a transparent color, that's in its name. And let's say with even some medium in there, let's darken it up with some burnt umber and some sap green, which are both semi-transparent. And these are just pure colors right out of the tube. When I put this on here, there's a vibrance to it. Well, I mean, this is a dull color, but you don't get that kind of hazy look. It looks like a nice adjustment to the colors below it in some way. And that's why it's important to have transparent and semi-transparent palette, so that you can use as much of colors right out of the tube to get that better glazing effect, really. I think that's a pretty good position for the camera. Just up a little bit. Over. Okay. I did realize that I need to do work up here as well. Now the good thing is I have a full bottle of refined linseed oil. So tomorrow I'll probably get that out and start using that and see if that helps as well. But first, there's no way around it. I need to lower the intensity of this orange. But I want to keep the same value. So there's two ways of doing it. I can cover it up with the color that I want to achieve, which is kind of like this grayish warm color. Or I could make up a color that's complementary to this orange that will, I know, bring down the intensity. So let's make up kind of a bluish color. So ultramarine blue right out of the tube. But this value is much too dark. I need to lighten it up some way without using white. That would be the most important. And these mixtures have all kinds of white in them. I could use yellow, but that's fairly bright as it is. So instead of doing any of that, what will happen if I use a very, very thin glaze? It'll probably still darken this up a bit. So I'm going to put it here. So if this gets darker, that's okay. Yeah, darkened it up, grayed it down a bit. Now that's really interesting. It's kind of like, you know, this is the power of glazing, like adding these kind of subtle shadows and things. If you work digitally, it's like doing an overlay layer, and then lightly going over it with a, you know, a lower opacity brush. I think that's too blue and maybe too dark though. So I'm going to go back up here. Actually, I like that in the reference there's this kind of green that's over here that kind of looks intense, but I know it's not very intense at all. That'll bring this down. I do need to lighten it up just a bit as I go up higher because that's where more light is hitting the tiger. I'm getting too far up for you guys. And I oiled out that whole leg, yet I went all the way back up to the top. This is what happens. I do have to be careful as well because when I think about when I put this paint down up here, how long ago was that? And could it be dry right now? And the color look different. Go for teal, yes. Thank you for the reminder. Gotta get my daily teal in. It's part of a balanced breakfast. I need to switch up brushes now. One thing that I'm always trying to improve upon is continually switch brushes a little bit better. So I can get a bit cleaner hues and saturations while I'm painting. Okay. So, yeah, well, even when I look on the stream, I think that I see this. Hopefully you see it too, but it's much more gray here. Less saturated. And that's what we're going for, honestly, is less saturation. I'll need to eventually bring that back here. But we're going to move further down the leg. Oh yeah, I want to say thank you to Finish for shooting me an email so I could see your work and asking questions about it. I really enjoyed looking at your work and giving you feedback. I was really ecstatic about your work as well. Actually, that reminds me, one of the things that I observed, you know, anytime you look at other art or anything really, when someone's either working in the same medium as you or the same, you know, all artists or whatever, or even like athletes or people that are achieving something, that are creating, that are doing, I tend to always kind of reflect upon myself in some way. I think it's not a narcissistic thing. It's more, you know, like how can, you know, what is their art, is their habits, you know, their ability telling me where I can improve in some way. Having this kind of internal dialogue is really nice. And when I was looking at your art yesterday, oh, and thank you for the feedback. Very helpful stuff. Great. I'm glad. I'm very glad. Hopefully it wasn't way too off the mark and you're like, I have no idea what's going on. I remember back in the day, because I have been an artist all my life. The problem that I've had, and the reason why I'm not as good as I should be, or I would like to be, not as should, is because I've had too many long breaks in my life. And the last one was 5 years long, and I lost basically all my ability at that point and had to start over. And that's why I really push daily art now, you know, and this ability to do a minimum a day, regardless, and see how positive that can change your life. But when I first started years and years ago, I was painting from the heart, you know, painting emotionally. Art was more than just a skill-based thing where, you know, I wanted to express what I was feeling in a lot of ways. And I wanted to do it within, you know, imagery that I liked as well. So there's like a connection there. You know, what did I see in media or TV or movies or whatever that could help me express what I love? And a lot of it was fairly overt, you know, as on the nose, as they say in the movie industry. And that's where you start out, and that's totally cool. But somewhere along the way, I lost that. And I see a lot of artists that lose it. There are a few that are able to keep it, you know, especially representational artists, because you get into this thing where you're like, well, I need to improve. I need to improve. I need to improve my skill level. And then we do all kinds of work that, you know, exercises-based things to improve. And that's not bad either. But through all that, we forget about the reason why we started in the first place. And I had forgotten that for a long time. And so most of my artwork on my website and in different places is not emotional. It is purely academic. Which is not bad, but that's not really the real purpose of art. That's not what fuels people's emotions. That's not what makes a piece of art last for lifetimes. So it was very refreshing looking at Finish's work. And I even stopped my wife. I was like, hey, look at this. this is really great. Check this out. It was fantastic. You know, it definitely had this surreal, and I hope you don't mind me talking about your work on the stream. If you do, please tell me to shut up and I'll change subject. But it had this quality of juxtaposition that was really interesting, but not random juxtaposition. There's a, you know, back in the day when surrealism was begun, it was kind of like just so off the wall and esoteric, no one would know what the heck's going on. You know, you'd have to read the bio about the painting just to figure out what was happening. And, you know, that's not bad in a lot of ways, as long as the imagery is interesting enough to draw the viewer in, if that makes sense. So they want to figure out and know more. And I think that's so important for contemporary works. You have to have that hook where anybody off the street who doesn't care about art, doesn't know anything about art, stops and goes, whoa, that's interesting, and then wants to learn more about it. It's the art that can do that. That is still in museums today. So Finish, you say, what is happening with me is I find that my lack of studies is hindering my personal work. Now I'm focusing on learning to further improve what I want to achieve. And no, I don't mind you talking about it at all. Oh, great. You know, I resonate with you there as well. You know, I started back into art, into painting 10 years ago. And almost right away, I figure out, oh, well, my drawing skills need to improve tremendously. So then it goes back to this tremendous focus on drawing. I need to get drawing, drawing. And you got to be careful if you do that. If you focus on, you know, just building skill, which is fine, make sure that you're always coming up with ideas for new paintings. But even better, I would suggest that you let the personal work define the studies that you create. You know, that's one thing that if I went back 10 years ago and I told myself this, I'd be like, Chris, it's great that you're starting back and you're getting, you know, working on still life because that's the best thing for, you know, transferring, you know, a 3D image to 2D. You know, it's the best thing for actually learning. I think imagery is just as good, honestly. But I would say make the personal work and then let it define your studies. Don't just do constant random studies that you've... And I'm telling myself this 10 years ago, right? And it's up to you to follow this or not. Don't just do studies right out of a book that say, oh, you know, draw 100 hands, or... You know, although I do love the idea of, you know, doing 100 of something. It's kind of like Ahmed Adori's 100 heads practice, right? That is actually, I mean, if you, let's say that you're like, I want to do portraits, okay? Which might be the case for you, which, you know, it'd be awesome. I want to do portraits. I'm going to do 100 portrait studies, okay? Keep them small, keep them fast, and really study as you go through them. But don't do these huge, like 20 by 30 paintings that I'm doing that take too long. That's not going to improve your art fast enough. You can do these smaller head studies, make them, you know, and don't just like go off the traditional like New Masters Academy photographs or whatever that, you know, look like that they were taken back in the 1800s, you know, with the same poses or whatever. Think about, okay, if I do 100 heads, which, you know, how could I not only add in a narrative or story to each of these that would match my personal work or also help with personal work? So, okay, let me give an example. Let's say that, actually, this is kind of something I would love to do because I really enjoy portraits a lot. I think and I love figure, but I think with, you know, to communicate to an audience, I think the portrait is even more powerful. Portrait and figure would work perfectly for me. But I would like to figure out passion or hatred or, you know, emotion on the face. So if I wanted to improve my portraits, my painting portraits, I would do a bunch of small portraits and I would do a series. Like maybe I say, I'm going to do 100, or not even 100, I would say maybe 50 portrait oil paintings, 5x7, keep them really small, and make sure that they stay within a half an hour to an hour in length. And every 10 of them is going to focus on a different emotion. You see how I'm kind of taking this study and I'm building into it like a multitude of things that can help with my personal work, you know? I mean, I could go to a random book that is, you know, the go-to book or the go-to course online for studying the head, and I would get academically good at heads, but then everything else would be separate as well, and I wouldn't feel as fulfilled because I'm not going towards a bigger goal. You know, it's just the skill acquisition, and you're keeping your ideas fresh, you know, the purpose for your painting fresh in your head. I actually am doing that. Oh yeah, the hand studies are for a future painting I want to make that involves a lot of hands. Same with my other study. Oh, fantastic. Makes the studies feel like less of a chore. Yeah, for real. That's, yes. If you can, I would say this, like, anything that you do in art, and I talk a lot about motivation and habit building because it is the foundation of what we need to do as artists to become great artists. It's more important than skill acquisition. It doesn't matter how skilled you are if you don't have the motivation to get in front of the easel. Like, you could be the most skilled artist on the planet, but if you're just like painting maybe once a month for an hour, you know, you're going to go into obscurity, no one's going to know who you are, and then you'll barely, yeah, it's just not going to happen. So you have to have that first. So that's why I talk about it a lot. But a lot of things that I talk about with skills and motivation is you don't have to just do one thing at a time. And I see there's a lot of individuals that want to build a habit of art, and they just focus on, you know, well, let me try doing this one thing to help me with my habit. And I say, no, don't just, okay, the one thing is good. Add in 12 different things that can help you with your habit all at once. You know, you don't have to do one thing at a time. So exactly what you're doing there. Oh, I need to get better at doing hands. Well, how can I build into these hands like 6 different things that keep me motivated and bring me toward my end goal? right? I think that's so important to understand. It was really huge for me once I understood that. There's so many things that I do every day that keep me motivated to paint that I've kept stacking, you know, kind of on top of each other, like continually stacking motivators so that it's almost impossible for me not to get motivated. It's just like tremendously helpful. I mean, this live stream is one of them. It's very motivating to get up, you know, and I feel not obligated, but I can't wait. Can't wait to get up and talk to you guys, have a conversation. But doing something live like this is pushing me outside of my comfort zone, which is always a motivator. A challenge, challenges are motivating. Something that's a little bit beyond our skill level, works our brain, becomes interesting. I track my work on my website. And that's a motivator because you can look back, you can see how far you've come, what you've done. The numbers keep climbing, and those numbers are fantastic to watch go up, I tell you. What else do I do? So let's... Oh, I'm getting to a point now where I don't worry about studies any longer. I paint what I want to paint, and then if I need to study something, I'll let it guide me. I switch up every now and then. Like I have 2 paintings going right now, and I know I have 3 paintings going, and I have references ready for digital works that I can bring into traditional work paintings as well. So all these things that you stack together to keep, you know, you motivated to do your artwork is really the way to go, in my opinion. All it takes is a little bit of time to kind of sit down and be creative with it. Another example is what do you call it when, oh man, the words are not coming so easily this morning. So if you're painting and you find it difficult to stay painting for longer than, you know, maybe a half an hour or an hour, and you want to at least achieve an hour of art or an hour and a half of art a day, or in 2 sessions a day or something like that. So you could just say, well, I'm just gonna force myself to work an extra half an hour a day. Or you could get creative with it. You could say, okay, well, where do I get, where does my energy leave me the fastest? You know, let me try going a little bit further, but do it earlier in the morning where my energy is higher, or later in the evening where my energy is higher, wherever your energy is higher, you know. Maybe I do some exercise, do a walk beforehand, because that's an energizer as well. Gets me moving, gets me started. Maybe I do some stretches beforehand. Maybe I take breaks every 30 minutes and I stand up if I'm sitting, or if I'm standing up, I sit. You know, I look at my piece every 20, 30 minutes. Or maybe you do all those things together. And my vote is to always stack them together, stack everything. That's the way to get motivated. Not just one thing, but a bunch of things. Interacting with the others who share the same passion is pretty motivating. Yeah, definitely. Got me back to painting after 7 months break. You know, oh man, I hear that all the time. This is why I'm doing these videos. how many of us on that's listening right now have had these long breaks away from art? I've had a multitude of them in my life, and it's, you know, art is not like riding a bike, I say all the time. It has both physical skills and mental skills. Personal development is part of it. It's like being an athlete, but a little bit easier. And so when you have these long breaks, you lose ability. And I get people that argue with me about this. They're like, no, you don't. Like, yes, you actually do. Because let's say LeBron James took a whole season off. You know, everybody, when he comes back to play, he's like, okay, I took my season off. You think he just jumps right back on the court? No. He's going to be spending like a month or more trying to, you know, really come back to where he needs to be. It's not going to be like you start over completely. No, I mean, you don't lose it all. But there is a degradation of skill that happens there. It's, you know, the reason why they call people, they're rusty. Yo, you're just rusty. You need to get some time to get back to it, you know? Art's just like that. Art is no different than basketball or football or any other sport. It's not as physical, but it's just as mental. And it has some physical abilities to it. And I would argue that art is maybe more mentally challenging in some places than these sports. So it's having those breaks are more detrimental than we think. And I don't know why we don't attribute this to art very often. It's kind of like I feel like it's overlooked too much. Ula, you say, only started about 3 years ago, have had a couple of months break, but otherwise so far have been doing at least something every week. Now daily. Today, day 14. Oh, fantastic. Oh, please build those numbers. What? Okay. Really important question for you, Ula. What is your minimum? Like on your worst day possible. What is your minimum, and can you still achieve it? That's the most important question. I'm sorry to challenge you like right on the stream. I apologize, but I'm very interested in making you as successful as possible. Not you and, you know, well, everybody here on the stream, yes, but specifically you, definitely. We're talking about you. I want to make you, yeah, the best version of yourself as an artist, or a better version of yourself, whatever that may be. Congratulations on the 14 days, by the way. That's huge. 2 weeks. Now, the reason why I'm asking Ula about the minimum, and if you haven't watched my video on setting a minimum, and then its follow-up, which is, you know, your big why, I would highly suggest that you do. The minimum is a focus on progress and not perfection. It's a mindset change where instead of thinking that in order to accomplish anything, you have to put in all kinds of time or all kinds of effort every single day of your life. It's a change into, as long as I continually make progress, I'm improving. Progress over perfection. It's so important. That way, on the days that will come, and believe me, they will happen, we've planned for those and we're ready for them. And I'm talking about, the easier days and the hard days that are not so hard, and then the really hard days. My minimum is very low, as I do not like thinking. I have to, I should, etc. yeah, let's not do that. So my minimum is 10 minutes, mostly have exceeded that. Fantastic, but I need to know that I am not failing if I cannot reach 30 minutes. No, you're not. Your minimum is you, and that's perfect for you. That is fantastic. I'm so glad that you got that. That you're embracing that. The challenge that everybody comes up with is, well, what are you going to accomplish in 10 minutes? There's too much of a focus on, the hedonic. What can I get now? What can I get out of life right now? And this kind of quick approach, really quick, constantly. Need this, need that. This Amazon second day. I don't care what it costs. I just need to get it tomorrow. This is our society now. I don't care what it costs. I just want that hamburger. Health-wise. I don't care. I'm just really hungry, and I need to get this. I know it's bad for me, but who cares? It's just one hamburger. That kind of thing. But if we think more on longevity basis, where it's like, what this gets me is a habit built and continually to be built. And I'm thinking about longevity. I'm not thinking about today doing an hour, half an hour only. I'm thinking about this helps me continue painting every single day until the day I die. And I'll probably paint that day too. It'll be right after I get up, and then later in the day, I won't be here anymore. I totally immersed myself in oil painting about 7 years ago. Then I fell out of frequent practice. I'm still in an infrequent practice. I like your concept of minimum habit, but just haven't been able to implement it yet. Yeah, what's getting in the way? Why haven't you been able to implement it yet? Have you really kind of felt into not only what you want to achieve the rest of your life, but also thought about, like, got practical with it, like your worst day possible, and planned around that? I think those two exercises are huge. Oh, and by the way, everything I'm talking about here is just not me coming up with some BS that has worked for me. If you read Atomic Habits by James Clear, it's an amazing book. It's wonderful language that anybody could understand. Simple language for habit building. Atomic Habits, James Clear. That book was built off of structure of habit building from BJ Fogg in his book that came out afterwards called Tiny Habits. Because the study really came from BJ Fogg, habit guru. Oh, nothing has inspired me enough. Yeah, I understand that. I'll talk about that in a moment. But this is all based in science. And what James Clear calls it, let's say that you build up a habit. Let's go with you, Ulam, because you're building that habit. And that's great. And that's the most important. Building up the art habit. Doesn't matter what you do today or how long, you're keeping the habit going. It's about the rest of your life. Just like with a diet. You don't think about, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds in 3 months. You think about, how can I change up my habits around eating so that the rest of my life I'm healthy and I'm fit. That's the real build to it. But we think about the long term. And James Clear says, you can miss a day. That's okay. But once you miss 2, that's habit suicide. And there's science around it where the connections to you and your habit, your daily routine, degrade really quickly. It's hard for us humans to build up that habit. It takes, upwards of 30 days to really build in that habit so it becomes like where you don't have to think about it. But that's not everybody. It could be longer for some, shorter for others. And I'm painting here and talking about habit because, and I tend to worry about, well, people join this and they want to just watch a person paint. And kind of tune out. And that's fine too if you want to do that. But if you're serious about becoming an artist and really want to do a lot, the personal development side of things, these personal habit building things that I've come across and read a ton on, is what keeps us into it, is what keeps us going. So let's talk about inspiration and motivation. So inspiration is pretty close to motivation, honestly. If something inspires you, you're motivated to action. I am actually currently listening a person paint. Yeah. And I totally know what you mean, because it's a lot of time it goes to this feeling like you don't know what to paint. I'm not inspired to paint anything right now. It's There's the idea that anytime we do artwork, that it must be emotionally inspired. And this goes back to what I was talking about with Finish's work, where, it always has an emotional element to it. And that could be inspiring, but there are days when you're like, I have just no idea. I'm not inspired by anything emotionally. I'm tired, I've had a long day. I just want to sit down and do nothing, Energy level has a lot to do with this. I can understand that. Because there's been so many days when I say to myself, I don't understand this. I love art. I love doing art. But today, I don't feel like it. Going through kidney disease, which kidney disease is where your kidney functionality drops down to nothing. I mean, for me, it was stage 5 when I figured it out. which is basically like your kidneys are not functioning well. And what happens is kidneys clean out the toxins in your blood. That's their purpose. They clean your blood and you urinate, you know, what's left. If you have if your kidneys aren't functioning and you have all those toxins in your blood, you're very lethargic and you're almost like kind of walking through a haze all the time. And I felt that. There were months when I did nothing but my minimum, just straight. Like I would only accumulate like 15 hours of work in a month of artwork. And those days were like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just want to do something. I don't want to lose the art habit. So I'm just doing whatever. And those days are fine. This is what we're preparing for, okay? This is what we want to prepare for. I'm having to add way too much white to these colors, by the way, and it's getting a bit hazy down here. Actually looks kind of hazy on the reference. So I guess the challenge here is thinker, and I hope we're closer enough now that I can challenge you. But do what you can. Use a multitude of ideas, creative ideas like I've talked about, to work on something every day. And if you start a big painting, that's fine. Work on it a little bit every day. One of the paintings I have, a lot of the paintings I have behind me, like the Patrick painting was like, I want to say 200 sessions long. The painting I did of my wife took 150 sessions or something like that. I don't know, just crazy numbers. Just because I'd spend a half an hour, I'd get, luckily I had everything set up so that I could get to it as quick as possible. But I would spend a half an hour painting and I was like, I'm done. That's all I could do. And it was a painting that I, really wanted to work on. I was able to accomplish that painting even though I didn't feel like it. And what's important is that you build up that willpower so that on the days when you don't feel like it, you can still accomplish something. And I'm not going to sugarcoat this at all. It takes willpower. But here's what I will say. When I was in the hospital for my kidney transplant, doing the sketch in the hospital bed, and then the day before having to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning so I could get ready and we could be leaving for the hospital on time so I could get to my surgery time. I was sketching in our hotel room at the time because we had to stay close to the hospital after my transplant. It wasn't that hard. People go, wow, that's like some dedication. That's crazy. No, I have built up the habit so much with a lot of 30-minute days and just doing what I can for days and days and days that I had built up that willpower. So, Ula, that's what you're doing with the daily art. Well, everybody here, that's what you accomplish with the daily art. You're building up willpower. You're keeping art in your brain. You're keeping those neurons firing. You're keeping those parts of your brain active that you need to make the best art possible. You're building up that habit. You're continually creating something, connecting with, what you feel deep down as an artist. It's not just do it every day just because I say so. or because it's worked for Chris. No, this is like so much science is involved in this, that can help you out in a multitude of ways. Here's another thing that's really interesting. Oh, let me read the comments. I'm at work, so need to watch something else, but still can listen and occasionally write. Oh, no, fantastic. Whatever. I'm so glad you're here, Ula. Thank you. Oh, I fell into that trap. Each painting had to have an interesting idea and be well executed. Was too mentally exhausting and resulted in long breaks. Yeah, burnout. Gotta be careful of the burnout. Another thing that will send you into burnout really quickly, a friend of mine said this when I was talking to him about doing art daily, because he still has these huge breaks and he can't get his mind wrapped around it. Jeff, I hope you're listening. He says, no, I don't feel like I can accomplish anything unless I'm working 6 to 8 hours a day on art. And I'm like, dude, that's a perfect recipe for burnout. He'll work for months, he'll burn out, be off for months, and then start over. It's a vicious cycle. Never building up the skill, just always kind of starting and stopping. I hate it. I hate it for these people. They're my friends. It's why I'm doing everything here. Like, really, that's what's like, okay, I need to start talking to other people about, what I've been able to achieve. So watch out for the burnouts. Thinker, you say, when I am really into painting, I can zone out. What I think is 10 minutes is 3.5 hours. Yes. Then I feel guilty about being so selfish, so self-absorbed. Wow, that's really interesting. Okay, the first part of that, what you're talking about there is a flow state. Great book on, or books, The Art of Impossible by Stephen Kotler. And he has dedicated his life to research and communicating flow state and how to get into a flow state. And he believes it's the superpower of humans is to be in a flow state. His books are based off on a lot of the research done by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi and his book Flow, because it changed his life tremendously. So what you're experiencing there is called time dilation, where time just seems to either speed up or slow down because you're in that flow state, and it's absolutely fantastic. And the key is to try and repeat that as much as possible. It's where everything becomes easy, second nature, no problem. The hard is simple. But it's interesting that you say that you feel guilty about being so selfish or self-absorbed. Wow. That is something I've never encountered before, and I have no idea. The only thing I can say to that is well, let me go back. There's been multiple times in my life, and I think maybe our lives, where maybe someone has commented to you. They've either said, oh, don't feel that way, or you don't feel that way, or something along the lines where they're denying the emotion. They're denying the feeling because it's uncomfortable, because, oh no, it's not a good feeling, so stop it. The only thing I can say is that your feelings, no matter what they are, good, bad, amazing, horrific, they're right. Because they're your feelings. It's like opinions in artwork. Like if I say that, man, I really love this tiger, I love this about it, love that about it, and someone says something completely opposite, it's like, yeah, we're both correct. We both are 100% correct because it's our feelings on art. So I'm going to say that your feelings are universal, they're correct, they're right. They're okay. Now, are you selfish? You know, I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening around you at that point. I would like to say no. You know, maybe you're not selfish. Maybe you're just, you know, you're being creative, being a creator. I think really kind of thinking about it. And if you do feel that way, awesome. You're like, oh, okay, I got deep into this for 3 hours when I could be helping someone else or doing this for someone else or thinking more about someone else and not myself. Maybe you set a timer next time. You know, let's get practical with these things. It's great to be into the personal development kind of hemisphere with things. But I think it needs to be backed up with practicality of, okay, how can we set some action to this? So you'll have to think, thinker, you'll have to think, what is the maximum amount of time where you feel like, oh, I can feel like I can do something for myself and I don't feel so selfish about it. And then also set that minimum. So you do a little bit of something every day. Also, are you painting for yourself or are you painting for others? Can you find inspiration in making a painting for others? Can you use art to connect to others in a deeper way? I think I could go up to anybody on the street and talk to them for, you know, an hour or two, getting an understanding of who they are, what they enjoy, what they like, and then go back home and make a painting or ask for a photograph of their pet or, you know, their child, their home, their car, the things that they love, they're really interested in, you know, and do a painting or a sketch or something and give it to them. Talk about a connection. That person would never forget you the rest of their life. So then you could work for 3.5 hours in a flow state and feel like you have done it for someone else. You're doing one and the same. Yeah, I'm building up my art skill, I'm building up my art habit, and I'm making someone else's life better. That's another, you know, I should write these down, like all the points, all the different things that you can do to add motivation to doing artwork. do a live stream and talk about your life and your skills and how you've gotten here and help people while you're painting. Super motivating, let me tell you. Finish, you say, I've never sold a painting, but I love giving away sentimental paintings, drawings to people. I know, isn't it like really, you get some kind of high out of it. You're like, especially when their face lights up, you know, they're like, you made this for me? It's fantastic. Around Christmas time, I tell people, don't buy me anything, make me something. It's like, if you want something for me to cherish the rest of my life, don't buy me anything. Make me something and send it to me. I will cherish it, no matter how good, how bad it is. And then, you know, inevitably people get caught up into the, well, I'm no good at this, I'm no good at that. Actually, I'm going to take a quick break. And I'm going to go grab something I want to show you guys. And I'll be back in just a minute. Okay. So, I got to start with a story on this one. So we love cats. Me and my wife, we've always had at least 1 or 2 cats. And last year, well, the end of 2021 and then all of 2022 was like one of our worst years ever because one of our cats died. Actually, it was June 2021. And then February 2022, our next cat died. And we don't have children, but our cats are like our family. So, and they're really, really important to us. Since then, you know, we had about a 6-month or 8-month break just to kind of process the death of our boys. And we ended up getting kittens, so now we have kittens now. But during that whole process, Chewy.com. So Chewy is a place where you buy like animals, like cats, like just supplies for your pets, you know, food and all kinds of other stuff. You know, they connect with vets and you can get veterinary approved food and everything. After Sullivan died, he died pretty quickly because he had irritable bowel syndrome that progressed into lymphoma. It was really terrible. But he had died, and then we told Chewy, we're like, hey, we had to give him insulin at some point because he became diabetic, and so we spent like $5,000 on insulin, and we barely used any of it. And we're like, hey, can we return this or sell it? Can we do something? We had, I don't know, $300 or $400 with food because, you know, he would only eat like certain things and he was very finicky, and they said, no, just keep it. It's fine. Donate it. Donate that food. We're sorry for your loss. And then that was fantastic. And we were really happy with Chewy. We're like, wow, that's so nice of them. And they sent us a card that was signed by real people saying, we're so sorry for your loss. And then like a week or 2 later, we get this painting in the mail. And this painting, which it's super bright, you can't really tell. Let me knock that down a little bit. Here we go. So this painting is of the kid, or kitty. He was the second cat that died in the beginning of 2022, last year. And this was painted by a real artist, Geordie Starr. We didn't ask for it. We didn't tell them to do this. We didn't do anything. It just showed up in the mail one day. This was the avatar that I uploaded for Kitty, the kid, and they had someone do his portrait. Now, after that, actually the moment we got that in the mail, I said to my wife, I said, we are lifetime supporters of Chewy now. What they did was just so emotionally amazing. And look at this painting. Look, it's not a wonderful painting. It's not fantastic. But it's one of our most cherished things. I mean, we bought all kinds of stuff, you know, to honor the death of our cats, and it's up there with the, you know, the portraits that we had done and the books that we had made and of all their pictures and everything. It's huge. Skill does not matter. Here I am, I'm painting, you know, this amazing looking tiger. And this painting by Geordie Starr, which I need to look up. I really need to look this person up. And buy a whole bunch of their paintings. Is probably one of the most sentimental things that we've ever had. Yeah. Skill didn't matter in this. It was the emotional connection that really mattered. Do a quick search on Google. Search for the most influential paintings in art history. One of the first paintings that will come up is going to be Guernica by Picasso. Now, Picasso had a lot of skill in a lot of different things. But this, you know, the skill level it took to make that huge painting doesn't take as much skill. I mean, mental skill, yes, but not as much physical, you know, skill about paint like we're doing here. But it's one of the most influential paintings in you know, art history. Even better than that would be Warhol in his soup cans. Some of the most influential paintings in art history take no skill. It's all about the thought, the emotion, the narrative, and the story. So thank you. You say, great advice. Good practical examples of what I might do to overcome these feelings. So when do you get your degree in psychology? I went through a program called the Optimize program, optimize.me, for like 3 years. I did this online coaching course 3 times. And I got certificates all 3 years for it, for coaching. And it goes into a lot of this personal development. It's a fantastic thing. It's called Heroic now, heroic.us, heroic.us. And they have just a tremendous amount of personal development that is easy to digest. You can check out the YouTube on it. Brian Johnson is the guy that runs it, and he's fantastic. He does these things called philosopher notes, where he'll read these books and then distill it down into, you know, the 5 big ideas out of each book. And then this is a company that started small and is now up to, you know, millions of dollars a year and helping people build habits, lose weight, and be better individuals, you know, better versions of themselves. I kind of stopped painting there for a moment because I was so deep into that talk. Sentimental value makes even the silliest objects an invaluable possession. Yes, that is so true. And I think Thinker and Ula know that well. You know, I'm not there yet, but the older you get, the more friends and family you lose. We've lost a few. And we have so many objects around here. Little silly things. That are dear to our heart. Like the house is burning. These are the things that we go for. You know, right after we get the cats out in our cells. Like, wait, you left all the money. You left the stack of $100,000. I don't have a stack of $100,000, man. Just a visual example. You left the tens of $1,000s in this here, but you grabbed this little silly trinket. Yeah, that was much more important to me than all the money and the entire home. You know, these silly things, these memories. One of the videos that I loved that I did, which didn't get a lot of traction, and that's fine. You know, I'm being selfish on that one. I don't care that it didn't get a lot of traction. I thought it was impactful for me to do it. It's called like combining the objective and the subjective. And that's probably why it didn't get a bunch of traction, because those words are like meaningless to many people. But this is what you do. This is the higher purpose of art, in my opinion, which is finding the combination of the two things. The objective is the tiger, the cup, the figure, the hand, the plate, the airplane, the car, whatever you're painting. The subjective is the emotion, the feeling, the idea, the story, the narrative, the word, the motivator. And when you can combine those two, that's where you have real connection in your artwork. So there you go, thinker. There's some inspiration. I love the idea of turning the selfishness around and start making paintings for other people and see how you do with that. So it requires that you go meet some people. Think about the people that you love right now, that you know now, and think, what can I do for them? And you don't have to wait for Christmas or their birthday. Just say, hey, I was thinking about you and I made this for you. And get rid of the idea of skill level. I have to be skilled in order to do that. That little square painting, I'm looking at it right now. Getting teary-eyed just thinking about it. I don't think I talked much about my painting this morning. I'm sorry about that. Let's go through it now. What did I do this whole time? I have no idea. No, I'm kidding. It's interesting though, I was rather I wasn't focused, definitely wasn't focused, but I still had a pretty good understanding of what I was doing while I was talking. And boy, I tell you, I love looking at the painting on a screen right after I've worked on a section. It's like my eyes are opened. Yeah, I'm seeing, you know, I don't see it on the painting. When I look at the painting, I don't see that. I have to really squint my eyes. But when I look at the digital image, either on my camera or on my computer across the room, or even on my phone, there's this line, this really harsh line right here of orange to kind of bluish white, you know, that I think is a bit too harsh, and I need to soften up a lot. I think, yeah, it runs all the way down. I could bring the value up here a bit, and there. Or darken the whole thing up a bit. That would probably be better. Keep it as it is, let it dry, and then darken it up, because that's the best thing to do with glazes, is to darken down a little bit. And it's still looking really orange. Much more orange than what I'm seeing not in camera. I mean, over on the side looks orange, but maybe this is right here. It's a bit too orange. Yeah, okay. Made some good progress. Would probably have to adjust this leg a little bit later, but you know, got that whole glazing layer down on this big section. Compared to how we were glazing before, this is moving a lot faster. Like I knew it would, because I don't have to get too deep into the details. Tomorrow, I'll probably either work on this side, like the body, or I'll work on the other front leg. Maybe the other front legs I can do, you know, before this gets too dull. I can, you know, kind of copy back and forth. Well, actually, that's going to happen everywhere, because all these colors would be all around in there too. But yeah, glad that I'm moving a bit faster. Just need to kind of focus a little bit more on the next session. And yeah, that refined linseed oil didn't work so well. I think I'm going to have to get some different ones. All right, that's it for me today. I don't have an end screen for my stream. Unfortunately, I have to get that going, but I can like do a full screen of the art, but all you see is like the phone and everything over here. So I'll just keep it on all. There we are. All right, guys, thank you so much for the conversation. Hopefully I didn't go too deep into like personal development and bore you to tears. But I think it's so important. And tomorrow I'll try and focus more on what I'm doing and all that kind of stuff. If you have any questions, if you want to show your art, email me. Use my website, chrisbevan.com/contact or whatever. See the links in the description below. Or ask all your questions here. But anyway, tomorrow is Saturday, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day.